So in yesterday's video, I actually did a simple, detailed step-by-step tutorial on how to set up your camera on the DJI Ronin SC. And in that video yesterday, I was using the Sony a6500 with the Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens. That is the heaviest camera setup that I have. Although the Sony a6500, as you know, is relatively small, it is really heavy. And the lens is the Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens is really huge and also really heavy. So I'm doing this video today to actually cater to a different set of audience, the ones that are using the Panasonic cameras. I do have the Panasonic G9, which I'm gonna do a setup on the gimbal, and the difference is in this video I'm also gonna show you how to mount the phone holder over here. So I will be doing the full setup similar to yesterday's video on a Sony a6500, but with the additional phone holder mounts. Because a lot of times, even for myself, when I'm watching reviews, I prefer the although it's a generic review such as setting up a camera on a gimbal, I would somehow personally prefer the camera to be the same one that I'm using, or at least the same brand that I'm using, so that I won't have any different comparisons in my brain. Oh, he's using a Sony, it's easier to mount than I'm using a Panasonic, that sort of thing. So I have 4 different cameras. I'm gonna do a setup on all different cameras. Today will be the Panasonic G9, tomorrow will be the Canon 200D, and on the next day will be the EM1. In yesterday's video where I was using the Sony a6500 with the extremely large diameter lens, I actually had to use this camera riser, as you can see. The reason being is you can take a look at this Sony a6500. So you can see the Sony a6500. The reason why I had to use the camera riser, this is optional to use depending on the situation, but you can use it all the time if you want to. These are the scenarios when you need to use the camera riser. For example, if you're using a lens which is really huge diameter, just like the Sigma, which is a 67mm lens diameter, and you can see that the lens is actually protruding. It's actually larger than the body, so you do need to use the camera riser to raise it up so that the lens won't be touching or obstructing the gimbal. So this is when you use the camera riser. Another situation where you use the camera riser is when you are using the focus motor, which comes in the DJI Ronin SC Pro combo set. If you are using the focus motor that comes with in the box, or maybe you bought it separately, or maybe you have it from your old DJI Ronin S, then you need to use the focus riser. In today's video, I will not be using the focus riser because the lens that I'm using on my Panasonic is actually the kit lens, which you can see is not as wide angle as this Sony. It's not really larger than the body of the camera, so this won't be interfering. But of course, like I said, if you want to use it, you can. Today in this video, to illustrate that, I'm just going to use the quick release plate. I'm not going to use the riser, so at least you do have different variations of setup. Okay, so right now we're going to jump straight to what parts are required to actually do the setup for the Panasonic G9, and here's the parts. Okay, so basically here are the parts required to set up your Panasonic G9 or any Panasonic camera. First of all, like I said, in this video we won't be using the camera riser, so I will put it aside. In your DJI Ronin SC box, it comes with this package, this Ziploc bag full of screws. You just need to get out these 2 items, this screw, the metal screw, and this screw is for the lens support. This is the direction where you use the lens support, so the lens sits over here. So parts that we need to use, since we're doing the mounting the phone holder, we need the phone holder, the quick release plate, small screwdrivers if you have it, the tripod, the gimbal, of course, and a flathead screwdriver. And the last one is actually this wire. This wire over here is specifically for Panasonic cameras, because Panasonic cameras, unfortunately, they do not have micro USB or USB Type-C ports. So this is actually a separate purchase and does not come in the box. So take note of that. Don't look for this wire. It's actually a special wire. It looks like a audio 3.5mm cable, but it's not. It's much smaller than that. And the other side is the USB Type-C. This goes into the gimbal, and this special wire actually goes into your Panasonic camera. So this is a separate buy. I will show you how much I bought it for. And lastly, of course, you need a handphone. So let's get to the setting up. Okay, so first of all, as I mentioned in the video yesterday, before you actually start touching the gimbal, you need to set up your camera first. If you are gonna use for example, a shotgun mic, mount the shotgun mic on, remove the camera lens. If you're using ND filters and stuff, put it on. So everything needs to be mounted on the camera before you actually start setting it up on the gimbal. So take note of that. So next step is to actually set up the tripod onto the gimbal. So that's really easy. You can see at the bottom there's 2 screws. The smaller one, screw the tripod into the smaller hole. Make sure it's nice and tight. Extend the legs completely, and then we'll set up the rest of the stuff before we start unlocking the axis. So I will just be using the quick release plate. So grab that metal screw and then turn to the back where the words are, and at the bottom you can see that the hold there's a slightly larger hold right there. Take that screw and screw it in. So like that. The thread of the screws should be on the other side. So let it slide around loosely, and then we're going to take this. Like I said, I'm not using the camera riser, so follow the direction. It says lens on top there. It says lens, so just screw it on the bottom. Make sure that it is flushed. You use your fingers to actually screw it in. Make any adjustments, and once that's correct, use your screwdriver and just tighten it. It's really important that this is tight and firmly secured, because when you're moving the gimbal, this might come loose. So make sure that it's flush and make sure that it's tight, so it looks like that with the lens words on top. Okay, so next step is to use or set up the lens support. There are 2 sides. There are actually 2 sides to the lens support. This side is actually wider, so the wider faces outwards. So we're gonna put it below here, and you can see there's a hole right there. So this goes underneath, and that black metal screw, this one. Okay, so this one actually screws into the bottom. So how are we gonna make sure that this is flushed against the bottom of the lens? Make sure there's no gap, or make sure that it's in the middle as well. So in order to do that, just use your thumb and your middle finger to hold it in place, and then you can just screw it in. Make sure that it's flushed again against the lens without any gaps. Okay, so there you go. So this is what it looks like underneath from the side view. Alright, so that's done. Now we gotta set up the phone mounts. For the phone mounts, which comes in the box, is actually separated into different parts, but it is, when you take it out of the box, it looks one piece, just like that. It's actually not one piece. It actually depends on how you want to mount your phone holder onto your camera, or if you want to actually mount it on your gimbal instead of mounting it on your camera. So there's 2 different choices. Get a load of this. It actually looks like that. Okay, so these two screws sticking out is actually meant if you want to mount it onto your gimbal directly. So you can see on the DJI Ronin SC, this is the joystick, so make sure the joystick is facing you. On the right hand side is two holes, so this is where you screw your mount holder. Screw it in here like that. Now you need to make a decision whether you want the phone holder to be on the gimbal or if you want it on the camera on top. This phone holder, in case you didn't know, okay, can actually easily change orientation. Okay, and it is spring release as well. It is spring release, so you can just throw on your camera, your mobile phone, and depends on what orientation that you prefer. So you can see over here there is like a thread. So if you want to mount it on your camera, you need to use the horseshoe mount. Okay, so you can actually see the horseshoe mount here. So what you got to do is you need to loosen it up and loosen it and just slot it out. So this part detaches. So right now your mount is left with the horseshoe. If you want to mount it onto the camera, your Panasonic camera, just remove that piece there. Remove the piece to expose the horseshoe mount, and then you just slot in the camera, the phone holder, and tighten it. So this is what it looks like. So if you're on the gimbal, you can actually put the phone on top like this. This is if you want to mount it on the horseshoe onto the camera, and the other one is if you want to mount it directly onto the gimbal. That requires slightly more work. So I'm going to remove the horseshoe mounts. Okay, so if you want to use it on the gimbal itself, you need to put this back and put the horseshoe mount back into the original location and screw it in to make sure that it's tight. Okay, so put it back into the original position, and below that horseshoe mount there's actually another thread. You need to unscrew the bottom thread. We need to actually detach this rectangle with the screws. So by loosening that, we can remove this bottom portion, this thread here. Just loosen that. Okay, so once you loosen that, the base comes off. So this is what it looks like right now. The base comes off, and the two screws are actually here. The two small screws are here. So what you gotta do now is, using this plate here, we need to actually secure this into the two holes at the side of the DJI Ronin SC. One part that I forgot to mention is that you need to get out an Allen key from that Ziploc bag, because this is actually a protective plate. As you can see, I'll zoom in even more. This is actually a protective plate, and that needs to be removed in order to put the mount for the phone holder. So this needs to be removed first, then we can shove this on. So we need the Allen key from the Ziploc bag. So there's two size Allen key. Get the smaller one. There's a larger and a smaller Allen key. Get the smaller one, the thinner one, put it in and loosen it. Once that's out, be careful, don't lose the screws. Remember to put this protective plate and the two black screws back into the Ziploc bag for future use, in case you want to cover this portion back. Okay, so now we're ready to put the metal piece back on. Remember, the larger hole is facing outwards. Just put it there with the screw. Oh sorry, this screw actually uses the Allen key the larger Allen key, so you actually don't need this. So just use your finger to screw it in a little bit for both sides. So once that's in, use the Allen key to tighten it. Alright, so that's in, and then last of all, you can change the orientation now to this direction, and then you just need to screw that in. Can you see that? Okay, so put it into the middle hole and just screw that in until it's flushed, and there you have it. So totally done. Yep, and there you have it. So that is the setup for the mobile phone. Right now we're gonna shift over to mounting the camera. After doing all of that, the only thing that we haven't plugged in yet is this cable. Once you plug this into your Panasonic camera and connect it to the gimbal, you can actually utilize the buttons on the DJI Ronin SC to actually control your camera. So you can use the record button and stuff, the focus wheel, to control the camera. Once you plug it, it's like a remote control wire. So this is not going to go in yet. We're going to move on to mounting the camera. So like I said, if you want a really detailed version on how to set up the gimbal, the camera on the gimbal, you can watch my previous video. It's in the link in the description. Unlock the 3-axis one. This is the joystick, of course, facing you, so it's easier for you to understand the orientation of my explanation. There's one unlock here, and if you turn it around, the last unlock is here. So 3 unlocks like that. It should look like that with the joystick here, and when you turn it, this arm here should be facing you as well, like that. Okay, so slide the camera on. And then to balance this portion, you need to move it either back or forth. Use your fingers to hold the arm, and then find the exact spot. So around there looks good. Okay, so we are going to tighten it. So we got one axis done pretty fast. Let's hold it again just to make sure that it's correct. So if that stays in position, once you hold this and this doesn't tilt back or forth, that means it is properly or around properly mounted. So tighten the bottom screw underneath, and then the next one is, what you can do is, since that's correct, you can see this on the quick release plate, there is actually this thing over here. So it's a marker, so you can actually shift it and flush it against, since this is the correct location, you can actually shift it and make a marking. So this is a marker, so we've done that. And then the next one that we can check out is the other axis. Again, the joystick facing yourself, the camera point forward like that, and then we're going to play around with this axis right here. So if it is correct, when you point the camera upwards, it should stay. It doesn't move, so that's already correct. I didn't really need to do much. Okay, so you hold the arm, and if it's correct, it should point upwards. If it's wrong, it will tilt forward. So we almost got it correct. It does tilt forward slightly. So we just need to loosen this and make some adjustments. You need to loosen this and make some adjustments to make sure that we got the correct angle. So that seems to be correct. It doesn't move. So tighten it. Done. So back to the bottom axis, because you can see that the camera is actually tilting to the right. So that the first axis that we so we need to right now loosen this again. That's how we tightened it. Now we're gonna loosen it again to adjust the camera either to the left or to the right. You can see that the camera is flipping to the right, so we need to shift the camera more to the left. So we're gonna loosen that bottom. Okay, and then we're gonna shift this more to the left, and I think too much to the left, and there you have it. So once it's in place, it should stay. Then we tighten that back. So just a little bit of movement to the left to balance it out. Okay, so when that's done, so we got everything settled except for the pan axis at the bottom here. So this is the pan axis. This one here, you can see the markings on the pan axis, and the catch to loosen it is on the side over here. So we just need to loosen that. You actually need to point the camera 45 degrees up and it should stay. So it seems to be already positioned. It stays at 45 degrees. So it seems like we're totally balanced it out. So like I said, in order to get this pan axis correct, all you gotta do is point the camera 45 degrees to the left, and there shouldn't be much movement. That means it should be pretty much mounted correctly. But in order to get a proper reading, open your DJI Ronin app if you already downloaded it. If you haven't, go and download it in the Play Store. Open the DJI Ronin app, power on your gimbal. Once you hear that sound, and then once your handphone detects, you can actually press and connect to your Ronin SC. And then last of all, after doing all the adjustments yourself, you can actually check if everything is properly set up. So this view over here at the bottom, you can see it actually indicates what's the degree of the tilt. So in order to perform this experiment correctly, you can read the instructions. It says tilt your gimbal at least 15 degrees to the side, and then press begin test. So that's what we're gonna do to see if your gimbal is properly mounted. So I'm gonna tilt the camera 15 degrees like that, and you can see once you tilt your gimbal, it will indicate how many degrees it's being tilted. So that's pretty cool at the bottom. So right now I'm tilted at 18 degrees, so that should be fine. So anything more than 15 degrees, so I'm going to press begin test, and it will automatically start rotating. Oops, sorry, inappropriate. So if you do drop below 15 degree tilt, you will get this error message, inappropriate tilt. Press OK, tilt the camera again. Now it's at 28 degrees, so we're gonna press begin test, and you should see the gimbal moving on its own. And then after that, it will indicate whether or not all the axes are properly. So great, so we got the test results here. You can see that excellent. So yeah, everything's set up perfectly. We ran the test, all excellent. Last thing that I need to touch on is this cable for you to control the use the gimbal to control the settings on the camera. So firstly, if you look over here, again, the joystick facing you, just over here on the arm over here, there is the USB-C position, the port where you're supposed to plug in the wire. And on the Panasonic camera, it was really difficult to find it because it's so well hidden, but the port is over here. It is indicated by the word remote. So you just plug that out. Firstly, power off the gimbal. So now it's powered off. Then I'm gonna open the remote port. Okay, so plugged in. And then for the USB portion, I'm gonna plug it to the USB port. Yep, so there you have it. If you're afraid that this wire is touching the gimbal and you're afraid it might interfere, maybe you can turn it the other way around. Then you can open up the lens as well. Okay, so there you have it. The remote port on the Panasonic down to the USB Type-C port on the gimbal. So, yep. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button and the like button and the alerts button. I will come up with more DJI Ronin SC videos. The next one I'm going to show you is how to set up the focus motor, so look out for that. And look out for tomorrow's video. If you are a Canon user, I'm going to mount the Canon 200D onto the DJI Ronin SC. So thanks guys for watching, and peace.